everyone. So I am really excited I've been waiting and waiting for this package to come in. It was supposed to be here Friday. It is now Monday and it just came. But of course, it's the holiday season in terms of mail packaging and things of that nature. But I'm really excited. So if you are a regular on my channel, you will recognize, yes, we are going to play with paints on my reading table. I am too excited to change up the cameras and that kind of stuff over on my paint space. And so I plopped this down. And you know what? Painting is a sacred act for me. It is an act of creation. It's an expression of the suit of wands and fire. And so I'm good with it. Some candles, some fairy lights. It's all good. If you are here just because of what I'm reviewing, welcome. I am a professional reader of various types of divination systems, and so that's why you see crystals and candles around this particular video. So, for those of you in the tarot world, you would know Stephanie Poo Moon Law most likely through her Shadowscapes Tarot, which was one of my earlier tarot decks when I started to collect tarot decks, and I spent a lot of time with that exclusively, about a year and a half or so. And so, but she's also in terms of the art world, she's, known for more than that. She's actually made miniatures for playing role-playing games such as Dungeons and Dragons. She does a lot of art, portfolios and pins and beautiful paintings outside of the Shadowscapes Tarot. She is also working on an oracle deck eventually that is kind of in the style of Shadowscapes, so they're going to go beautifully together when that is finished. So I follow her on her Instagram, and I don't know, quite a while back, certainly more than a year ago, I had seen her using a little, very tiny palette, because she tends to paint very small, very detailed. She tends to use really small brushes, and so she had this little tiny palette, and come to find out, she'd had it sort of made, how they call it, 3D printed, and so that it was quite expensive to get even just the one. And so with a lot of interest in it, she did a Kickstarter to have some made for people who were wanting it, but it was, way expensive for having it made through the 3D printing. Now, it was still not cheap. I don't know if I don't think there's going to be in here saying how much it was. I'll have to look that up and put it below because I don't remember. It still wasn't cheap, but it was a lot cheaper than having it printed. From what I understand, Etcher, ETCHR, which is a company that releases, I know they have a bag and things of that nature for taking sketching, and that's mainly how I think I know them from. But they are going to be picking this up and producing it, which in my opinion will probably make it even more cost effective. I don't know that. So if you didn't get this in the Kickstarter and you see this and you're like, that's really awesome, it will be becoming becoming available again, so you will be able to get it. But this was a Kickstarter, I don't know, earlier in the year, and so I have been excitedly waiting for this. So I have a lot of palettes. I prefer a half pan, so most of my palettes are currently these metal Medine watercolor palettes with half pans in them. It's just my preferred thing. I do have this other one with half pans for my Daniel Smith, which looks pretty cool, but most of the time I prefer half pans in sort of these metal tins. That's my preference, and these are fantastic. They work really well for me. I don't really travel and paint very much. I like to say to myself that someday I will travel and paint more, but the truth of the matter is I don't do it a lot. But one of the things that I've learned about myself as an artist and as someone who loves paint I am actually, while I love the concept of building that perfect mixing palette where you have, you know, a couple, say 12. You can have less than that, but you can certainly make the perfect mixing palette out of 12 half pans and then mixing all of the colors that you want. That is a wonderful time-honored way to have a small palette on hand that you can then mix any colors that you want. One of the things that I found about myself is that I love having a wide variety of colors. I really enjoy it. I'm inspired by the different colors. It is something that I love. So for me, having a mini palette that only has a few colors isn't as intriguing for me to use as something like this, which is a mini palette with lots of colors in it. So let's go ahead and pull this out. It's of course small because it's mini. So this is a mini palette, a ceramic, which is my favorite thing to use, but it's a ceramic palette. It comes in this tin, which she's put a sticker on here, and unscrews. And she gives a couple of these swatch cards, because this is going to swatch out the way that your paint is going to be organized there, which we'll get to in a minute. So she gives you that. She also gives you a printout so that you can download these and print these. If you change this out, you can download this and print as many as you want. So that's fantastic. She's just calling it mini palettes. It says palettes.shadowscapes.com if you want to get more information about that. Again, this was a Kickstarter, but it is going to be coming where you can purchase it. So then there's a little felt thing, and then look. The other thing is I am I'm a mini freak. I love little things. I love miniature, small things, and this just makes me happy. There are 37 colors options in here, and of course they're very small. So could you get a giant brush? Stephanie Poumounla, from what I watched a lot of her videos, she uses 0 and probably 1. These are two Winsor Newton Series 7 brushes that I really love. And I think she uses the 0 of this one. I use this a lot for painting miniatures as well with acrylic paints, but I just like these sable brushes. So she's probably the most part using smaller brushes like this. And so you're obviously not going to get a big brush in here. This isn't made to swash around a lot of color. However, she does, what also comes in here is this mixing. So in one little tin, you have this adorable mixing tray, as well as this with all the colors. And of course, this is wonderful for those background washes, for just squirting a little bit in directly from the tube. Of course, you can also use it as a mixing palette for this, but if you're doing a bit of a bigger piece and want a good swash of color for your backgrounds before you get into the detail work, this is really fantastic for that. So look at them. Oh, it makes me so happy. Okay, so, and of course then we have all these felt pieces to keep everything from banging around while you're, if you want to pop this in your travel space, right? So, and again, or she just uses them on all her videos. I see her using these. So it also doesn't take up space if you have a smaller, like I'm very happy with my normal painting station, which is a art desk, but it's still not a huge amount of space. So anything that saves space and gets all of these colors at my disposal is wonderful. Or if I'm doing something like botanical drawings, which is what I've kind of am molding this set around, I just have a little art book and I could be sitting anywhere with that and this little palette. So love it, love it, love it. So I have, of course, already picked out my colors. When I thought I was going to be getting it Friday, I got all that done, and then it didn't come. And so then I threw them all in here because I needed my art space. The way that I've decided to build my mini palette is off of transparent colors. So I have become extremely fond of Sennelier watercolors for their transparency and their layering and their glazing. They're just stunning for that. So I've kind of built this, not kind of, I have built the colors in this palette off of transparent colors that are going to be work really well in layers, that are going to work really well in botanical working, which uses a lot of transparent colors. Now, of course, all watercolors are technically transparent, but there are specific colors that are labeled as transparent and other ones that are more opaque and others that are semi-transparent. Now, all of these colors in here, to the best of my knowledge, I did look everything up as best I could, is transparent except for one, and I couldn't tell you which. I do have one purple, I believe, that is semi-transparent, simply because I don't have a lot of purples and I wanted to get it onto the palette. So that is a semi, but otherwise all of the rest of these are transparent. I'll be putting white gouache in the very middle here. I think Stephanie, I feel like it's rude to say that because we're not on first term name basis. My mom didn't raise me that way. But Miss Stephanie, I believe, also puts white gouache here in the middle. So if you look at this closely, in fact, it's almost easier to look here, you can see that there are pies. And so it's set up very well to have a color wheel of colors. And so that is exactly what I'm going to do with my watercolor palette. Now, I think I'll pull out all the reds and pinks and purples because those are going to go next to each other in my color wheel. That I believe is, I think I took a picture of how I had things. So I think maybe what I'll do is pause here for a moment and put these in the groupings that I had them set up before so that we can come back and take a look. Okay, so I've kind of pulled these out in their colors, but I'm going to be, I guess, put them in order. I'm going to be doing some straight reds, going to warm reds to cool reds and pinks into kind of pinky purples and then into purples. So I'm going to set those next to each other because they work for me that way. I'm going to then have my blues because the purples into the blues make sense to me. I'm going to have yellows and oranges going into the reds because, again, makes sense for me. And then I'm going to have the greens over here. And then these are sort of nature colors or neutral colors. You'll see I have a lot of browns. I actually, I like to use a lot of browns. I use sepia a lot. I use raw umber a lot. I love this transparent red oxide. I love this transparent brown. I'm going to have to buy another tube of it. Of course, I have a black here, and then I also have a transparent brown oxide, which I love. So this is a core. So there's a lot of browns here, but I use them a lot. So you put in what you use, right? So this is kind of very jumbly what my particular color wheel is going to go. And again, I chose these colors based on them being transparent. So I went through all of my tubes of paint and pulled out the ones that were transparent. One of these purples, I want to say it's this Amethyst Amethyst Genuine from Daniel Smith. I want to say that this is semi-transparent. I think this is the one. It's one of these. I know this is not, and I think this is transparent. I don't think it says on here. So I'm pretty sure it's this Daniel Smith Amethyst, but I love this color, and I don't have a lot of purples, and so it's semi-transparent. The rest of these are all transparent colors. So that's how I'm going to do it. I am going to really quickly, I don't know how, but try to just give enough of a text on here to cue me in on what the color is, even though it's very, very small. And I'm going to do that real quick before I get started filling up the cute little tray. Okay. So I've just gone ahead and labeled I got dust because I was finding my palette knife. I've just labeled the tubes that I have set up right now, just so I can kind of go around as I go. Okay, so that was a little bit messier and more difficult than I expected it was going to be. I will have a little more cleanup. Probably should have done this on my art table, but you know, it's all good. So you can see all of my colors here. I'm going to put white gouache in the middle. I'm actually out of white gouache. I didn't realize it. I don't actually use it very often, so I didn't even realize I was out. Or I have just misplaced the tube, so I have to figure that out. But white gouache, that's just for putting little highlights at the end if you need to use it, if you kind of, that's generally what I use, but I've been using a pen to do that more. But so here's the color wheel. Again, not a fan of swatching on plain paper. That's definitely not my favorite. How cute. Just for a size comparison of how small these wells are, this is a normal, you know, dice size shape. So these are a shape. It is a dice. It's not dice size. It is a dice. And so you can see how tiny these wells are. So this is, again, something that is used, I will be mostly using for botanical work, such as, just to give you an example, in my traveler's notebook, I have these sort of sketches of different plants that I use, herbs and stuff that I use, and for that, I'm going to be transferring all of this into this that fits in my herb space. So I've left a page to sketch and paint cinnamon and clove and Palo Santo and peppermint and rosemary and so on and so forth through all of the different herbs and things that I use. And so I'll be using this mostly with this, but this is kind of what it would be, is just little sketches with of botanicals, which is why I wanted all transparent colors here. And they'll be pretty small paintings with smaller brushes. And so that's kind of what that's going to serve, the purpose that's going to serve, or when I just need to get out little details and those types of things. Or if I do want to go, because I do sometimes go to the park and things to paint, instead of just having a small kit with 12, I'll have a small kit with 37, and it will all fit nicely in here once this all dries. I'll leave this out for a while, and it will all stack in nicely with this. Bring a water brush or a water bottle and a regular brush along with you, and I've got 37 colors, which is how I prefer to paint. So this will be good for going out and about and traveling, but also just good to sit on the couch and do little sketches and drawings, which is my goal for 2019. So I hope some of you have enjoyed this. I need to go clean up my reading table, but I'm really excited that this has come and to be putting it to use.